Good afternoon, just turned afternoon, Havering Means business members. Chris here. Hope you're doing amazingly well. It's been a bit windy this week and a bit busy, but all good here. And I'm back in the office, which means that it's super echoey. But I'm sort of feeling that life is returning back to normal. And we're getting a few people joining the meeting. And I'm assuming Russ is going to let them in. So who have we got coming in? So who's first? Let's see who connects first. It's like a little game, this, just waiting for somebody to connect. Ian, how are you?
I'm good, mate. I'm good.
Sorry, mate. I just realised I shouted at you there through the excitement of being first. How's your week gone?
Surprisingly well. I've got a little surprise announcement to tease you.
You wait to the end though. If it's a win of the week, mate, you need to wait to the end.
I will wait to the end. Yeah.
I tell you what we're asking. So as our little icebreaker question, what we're asking on the podcast this week, and I'll probably use that because I haven't got any better questions at the minute. Is what are you curious about at the moment? Like, so what are you thinking about at the moment?
It's an interesting question. I'm cautiously optimistic about how things are going to work out. And someone asked me yesterday for a word about how I'm feeling, and it's inquisitive.
Inquisitive, good word. I like that.
Because it is, I think no one has been in this situation before. We're all wondering exactly how things are going to pan out. And I think we're just going back to the good old days of being a good scout or guide and being prepared for things that might hit us.
Yeah, you know what? I heard a really good phrase the other day, and I'm sort of, as you know, I tend to magpie good ideas. The phrase that I heard the other day, and it applies to some of us on this call, particularly the ones who are in professional services, is Sherpa. So being a Sherpa and a guide towards helping people achieve their goals. And I thought that phrase was really powerful. I really, really like that. So yeah.
That is good. I mean, I've done one bit of preparation. I've actually booked my first haircut. I'm feeling very much like Hugh Grant with all this floppy hair.
Well, actually, before we started the call, Fiona and I were talking about hair, and the problem I've got here is that I've got loads of hair at the front, just none at the back. So I need to get a bit of. I need hair equality in. That's what I need. I need hair equality. Thank you, mate. Good to see you. Judy, I'm really excited again today because I get to chat to Judy Wedge after a couple of weeks. How are you, Judy?
Hiya, I'm okay, thank you. I'm a bit stressed.
Why are you stressed?
My flowers haven't arrived for Mother's Day yet.
So what's happened to the order?
Yeah, you tell me.
Oh no! And when have they got to come? Like, when's the last time
Today.
They've got to come? Today.
They need to be here today, and I've been saying to the supplier, and it's a new supplier. Remember what we were talking about the other week?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I disappear, it
the
means
flowers have arrived.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Apart from worrying about your flowers, which I get. You know what? Yeah, if we could live in an environment where you could just, everybody that helped you run your business just did what they said they're going to do, that'd be an amazing world, right?
Yeah, that'd be brilliant.
But what else are you curious about at the minute?
What am I curious about?
Yeah.
Oh, for business wise.
Anything.
Oh, crumbs. Do you know what? I've had to turn work down. So I suppose I'm a bit curious as what's going to happen next, because I don't want to turn any work down. I suppose it's part of this growing process that I'm going through. I could have had 2 more people working with me to take on the work that I've turned down.
Okay.
Which is quite, so I suppose something like that. That's what I'm
So it's getting the balance, yeah? Have I got the balance right? Yeah, it's an interesting one. Yeah, I think my experience with that is that you never get those decisions right or wrong. You know, you never get them perfect. But I've never really turned down work that I've regretted in a couple of years' time. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it's part of that growing process, isn't it? Yeah, amazing. Thanks, Julie. Christine, how are you?
Hello. Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Oh, there's always stuff to be curious about with work and digital marketing. So that's, I think, just an ongoing curiosity of how we can make things work better, especially when the back-end systems change or the algorithms change. But
Right.
in terms of personal, I don't know, I'm just curious as to how the next few months are going to unfold.
Yeah, it'd be interesting, won't it? I am cautiously optimistic, but that's my nature. It's weird actually, because I had a conversation. I got, I think I was telling Fiona the other day. I got interviewed for a trade press thing this week, and I was talking about how in our profession sometimes optimism, my own personal optimism works against us, because I think everything's going to be amazing. And actually, sometimes when we're building financial plans for clients, and Fiona will tell you this, you need to have a bit of a pessimistic perspective, just to say, look, if it doesn't all go to plan, this is what we need to plan for.
Yeah.
So I've had to learn to be a pessimist, which is a bit of a weird thing to do. But yeah, we can talk about that later on. Thanks, Christine. Really appreciate that. Terry, how are you, mate?
Oh, very well, Chris.
And what's making you curious at the minute?
Curious is the shape of the new work environment. How many people are actually going to go back to work, or just continue to work from home? My sister and brother-in-law are both economists, and they're just planning a large extension on their house because they've decided that they're never going back into the city to work. They can work just as easily from home, and they'll go in for the occasional meeting. And it's how that is going to impact the city and the commercial property market, and how that knock-on effect with everybody. I mean, I'm curious. I'm very positive, but it's just how it's going to shape.
Yeah, you know what? I think the biggest challenge is commercial property over the next 5 years, because particularly in town, because do people need that space anymore? And if they got used to a lifestyle that's a bit more balanced.
Yes.
I've got a client who works for a barrister's in town, and they've said to her, as soon as the offices are open, we expect you in sort of all week, every week.
Yeah.
She's not keen. You know, she thinks like I've sort of managed to sort of run the practice, and 2 days at home where I've got a bit more flexibility might provide me with just that right balance of lifestyle.
My daughter works for Inner Temple. It's just right in the centre of the legal profession. And they've said, "Oh, you're coming straight back." She went, "Why? I've done perfectly well from here." Yeah.
I think there's going to be. I mean, I'm optimistic, but there will be an evolution, won't there? You know, there will be this thing where people will have to sort of cope. I mean, one of the reasons that I'm optimistic today is the kids have gone back to school, Terry. So I'm actually getting some work done, which is all right. Glenn, how are you?
Oh, you know, ticking over. I've put my summer shirt on, Chris. You know,
it's not bad, mate. I mean, as shirts go, you've got some going to compete with the awful monstrosities that I wear.
Honestly, the missus says I look like the pub landlord in it. You know, it's one of them sort of shirts. You know.
Well, talking of pubs, I mean, we did agree a couple of weeks ago that we're going to Hornchurch, and I did say to Cass that that's the case. Apparently, we're not allowed to go without her, Glenn. She's got to come along.
Yeah, well, we'll see about that one. But I've just noticed that lady who runs the Hop Inn has now got she's bought the premises next door, and she's got a thing called the Hop Shop as well. So so that's the off license bit that you can do on the click and collect stuff. So she's obviously doing quite well. So I have got a call out to her, Chris, because I think she could be a valuable contribution to this group. And certainly with some of the the podcasts and some of the stuff she's doing, about corporate wine tasting and gin tasting, whiskey tasting, and all that stuff. And she actually advises companies on you know, if you're taking people out to dinner and, you know, what wine should you have, not have, and all that stuff. And she does that as part of a training offering, because she's a trainer in her own right as well. I mean,
Right.
so many strings to her bow, but
Yeah.
I certainly think, you know, some of the organisations on here could maybe take advantage of some of her offerings. Definitely.
But that, I mean, that's the general theme, isn't it? We've all had to evolve. If it's working practices for like professional services, or how sort of retail and the pub sector evolves, you know, people like that. It's the adaptability to change is the key, isn't it? How adaptable are you to making change? And I suppose part of that is staying curious. So, what are you curious about at the minute?
Yeah, I'm a little bit like Terry actually, and it was quite interesting. My so my boss, Howard Albrew, who's one of the managing directors over at Canary Wolf Group. He was on. Some of you might have seen he was on Radio 4 Live or something, you know, doing an article about, you know, without breaking any government guidelines here, you know, his view. And clearly he's trying to attract people back to the Wolf for obvious reasons, you know, both in terms of the commercial properties and all of the stuff, you know,
Retail,
retail and all the residential stuff as well, you know, for the leasing and the sales. And he, you know, he was in one of those sort of, you know, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't type situations, because everyone's, you know, on the social media, oh, trust it to be a big boss of Canary Wolf telling everyone to go in, don't worry about the fact that you're going to get a load of super spreaders on the day. And he was actually trying to say that people were, you know, in his opinion, getting fed up and tired of Zoom and Teams, and they're getting fatigued by some of this sort of stuff. And where is the balance? I mean, you know, him and I had a conversation, and his view in the article was that he sees a space where people will do 1 day a week working from home, and then the rest of it in the office. And I went,
and I think there will be a balance.
Yeah.
I think there will be a balance, because I think what we've missed, and funny enough, I've booked my first walk-in meeting today, so I was so desperate to meet somebody face to face. I'm walking the parks of Hornchurch, wherever it's got a coffee shop. I'm up for. But the interesting thing is there is that element of, you know, what do you get from being in a room from people, and you can't duplicate that sometimes with Zoom. So it's going to be an interesting balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thanks, Glenn. Really appreciate that.
No problem.
Carol, how are you? I tell you what, I won't be sick of saying. You're on mute. Thank you, Carol.
I didn't say anything. I just couldn't get off mute. Apologies.
All right, okay.
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm very excited as always to be here.
Great stuff. And what are you curious about at the minute?
Oh, just echoing everyone else, I think. It got me thinking. Last night we had our first online parents' evening for our daughter. And I don't know if Julius. No, oh no, her delivery's here. Yay! Yeah,
the flowers have come. Julie's off.
I was thinking she was showing how happy she was about parents' evenings, but I think hers are a little bit older than that. It was really good. You just went onto a system and it automatically booked all the appointments in 7 minutes apart. 5 minutes with each teacher, and neither of you had any choice. It just cuts off after 5 minutes.
Right.
I kind of would be fine.
It's a bit more of an efficient way of doing it, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's made me think. I suppose we're all saying it anyway, but in work and out of work, if things are ever going to go back to, there's no reason to be in the school and walking around for hours to different classrooms when they're there. The business studies teacher was in his conservatory, and it was all going on. So
yeah. But one of the things, Carol, we've got to have some run talk, as we normally do on a Friday meeting. So one of the things that I am quite excited about is starting to book some runs in the diary. I've got my marathon training program not buttoned down, because I'll probably skip a few in that training program. But you've got a few booked in as well, right?
I've only got the Havering half. I don't enter loads of stuff. Martin usually does the Booper 10K in May, but I think that's virtual this year. It's a bit soon. I've done that a couple of times, but yes, the Havering half will be my first half. So
Havering half would be good. You could just got to watch out for Ingerbourne Hill, because when you're going up there, it's not a fun. That's my training hill. It's not a fun hill to climb. But yeah, it'll be good
I
fun.
don't know what it is, but I'll look it up. It's not that thing in the country park, is it?
Yeah,
Are you kidding?
yeah. You
How
go
am
up
I-
there.
Oh.
Yeah, only once. Once you're up, you come back. Like it's really not that bad. But you just gotta just make sure you've been up it at least once to make sure you know what to expect. Steve, how are you?
Very well, Chris. Thank you.
Good stuff, mate. And what are you curious about at the minute?
I suppose probably the best word to describe it is trepidation, really. I think what we're finding now is that all this working from home is obviously it's worked for a period, but now we're beginning to find that maybe people are slipping into kind of bad habits with regards to coming back to you and stuff like that. I don't know whether it's people have just got a little bit bored of working from home, so they're not working up to the same sort of levels as before. But I seem to be continually chasing stuff, which does get a bit frustrating at times. So
it's interesting. I've been back in the office this week, and there seems to be a bit of an element of more momentum when we're back in together than there is. Like the communication's a bit easier when you've got everybody in the same room, right?
Just exchanging ideas and stuff like that. I mean, obviously, because we deal with a variety of different types of clients, and every client's needs are different. Having those sort of conversations across the desk. Oh, well, I dealt with something similar. This is what I did with this and stuff like that. Those sort of conversations aren't taking place, and as much as you can sort of do a bit of ring round speaking to other account directors and stuff like that, it's not quite the same as being in a office sort of open forum. But I think it's more to do with the fact that just chasing insurers down all the time, it's getting a bit frustrating.
One weird thing that I've had to highlight this week, Steve, is like I've had to wear my proper shoes because I'm walking to work again, and I've been talking to your wife this week, and apparently the slippers are still, the tiger slippers are still being worn, mate. What's going on?
It's not. You know me.
It's a good look. You got to blame Sam for that one, Steve. She sent me a direct message.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Don't worry, I'll get my own back because I mean, as you mentioned about doing marathon training, she does like to do a distance running. So maybe you want to stick her name down as well.
Mate, she's got to be up for the Havering Half, hasn't she? I think she's coming in there. She heard that. She did say to me the other day that she is deciding on whether to do the Havering Half. I think we've got to give her some gentle nudges towards
I think just for the fact she's just called me out on the slippers, that I think she should be, yeah.
Literally a message with a photo, Steve, and it's a good look. It's a good look. Julie, how are you? Oh, sorry, I've got my two favourite Julies on. Julie Wedge is off to get her flowers. My other, the other Julie, who's amazing. Julie Bell, how are you?
Hi everyone, yeah, I'm really good, thank you. Yeah, enjoying life. Back
Good
in
stuff.
The office.
And what are you curious about at the minute?
Are we referring to coming back to work in the normal way or
anything?
I'm curious to see how quickly we can get back to normal.
Are you?
I'm not one of these people that like working from home. I have to say that. I don't think my environment was particularly good because there was 4 of us and my granddaughter was homeschooling, so it was a bit mad. But she went back on Wednesday after she had her flow test or whatever they do done, and the difference in her.
Yeah.
Just yesterday, she came home. My husband picked her up. She was like full of chat. Just 2 days, the difference.
Yeah.
And I know.
We've seen that this week, both ours.
Chris. And I know the difference when I'm in here. You know, Dawn's at the other end of the office. Mark's in his little cupboard. But just like we talk through the glass or if we go out and make coffee, you see something.
Yeah, it's that socialisation element and that sharing of ideas. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and we hold different Zoom clubs, and last night was our action club. And you could see the guys really wanted to sort of have the banter and the friendliness of what you would get in a room. Whereas on Zoom, you're very limited to you can't really have everybody off their mics, can you? Because of all the background noise and things like that. So yeah, I'm really curious to get all that back. And yeah,
I think we are in a situation where it seems to be getting there slowly, doesn't it? So
I think we'll have a balance. I do, because I think, you know, a lot of people do like the home working, but it'd be nice if there could be, you know, you have to, like my son-in-law, he has to go in 2 days a week.
Yeah, I mean, you're right about the kids though, because like my 9-year-old and my 17-year-old, both have been at school and college respectively this week, and just a buzzing because they get to see their friends. You know, it's a huge thing. So yeah, really important. Thanks, Judy. Rachel, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. And how are you? Thank you for having me.
You're more than welcome. You're more than welcome to come along. How's life for you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Very busy, which is good. I am curious about how long will the children stay at school? And also, will my other half go back to the office 5 days a week rather than 3? And I hope he does.
Are you hoping 5 or 3?
Absolutely 5, because my office is at home, and if I nip out to see a friend and a coffee and a cake, he says, "Oh, I thought you were, you know, busy." Gets to find out all my secrets. So nice having him out of the way.
Yeah. Do you reckon he'd be more up for 5 or 3? Do you reckon his tendency is to have a bit more flexibility or not?
He might just do 1 day from home. He's a walker, so when he talks on the phone, he walks around, which is really annoying, right? So he can't be restricted to an office like I've got, because he has to walk around. So
gotcha.
He finds it very difficult to work from home, and yeah. So
and when's he going back in?
He's been going into the office all along. He's in financial technology. Right. So he's been going to the office all along. Just started 1 day a week, and now he's up to 3. So I'm curious to how long it'll take for 5.
And you're hoping sooner rather than later?
Absolutely.
Good stuff. Thanks for joining us, Rachel. We'll talk a bit of business later on. Kevin, talk to me about how you are, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, mate. We're steady. Can't complain. I actually enjoy home working. I've done it the last 20 years, so I've been enforced on it. But,
do you find... how do you make sure you stay disciplined while working from home? Is there a technique that you can share that helps with that?
Probably when I started off in the back of the garage and doing home working, then when I first employed or self-employed was an interesting one. But no, I'm fortunate. I'm probably guilty of trying to work too long a day. Yeah. I won't touch it at weekends. It's easily shut the door, etc. The hardest thing's been while lockdown's been. I've had to change office to the dining room. Just Wi-Fi, you can sort of huge difference. And now I actually enjoy the dining room, so you see people coming past, whatever, at the front. Yeah. But I think it's self-discipline, but you always will get a day or two every couple of months where nothing will work. Whatever you're trying to do, you're better off. And it's something I've learned now that you might as well say, shut down what you can, just go off and chill out. But if you find you need to get out, which is something I haven't been doing so much, I normally get out. Well,
I think Russ has been arranging our meeting, our walking in the park meeting.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, I'll be walking for it's not running for a marathon, so I'll be walking, mate. And
I've got your running shoes, mate. I mean, you got to keep up. If you want to chat, I'm joking. We'll walk.
I'm a fast walker, but unfortunately, my marathon days are over.
But I did say to Russ, we need somewhere with a coffee shop. So wherever's open, I'm looking forward to that meeting.
Yeah, that'd be good.
And I've got Joanna on the call, but I don't know whether she's around to speak. So she is. Hi, Joanne. How are you?
Hi. Sorry, I've had Wi-Fi issues, and I did have you on my phone so that you could see me, but it kept crashing and I kept losing you. So I've put it on my PC, but I've got no camera, so I apologise. But it's probably a blessing.
No worries, we can still hear you. That's the important thing. What are you curious about at the minute?
Well, I missed some of the conversation where I lost connection, but I work in commercial property, so it was really interesting hearing you talk about commercial property and offices and what have you. And we've been doing part in the office, part at home. I'm not a home worker at all. I prefer to be in the office. But yes, I'm curious as to where it goes, because that's my bread and butter. So I'm really hoping that, you know.
But I suppose in law, the aspect that you've always got is that sort of negotiation process, and there'll be a lot of people, even if there's no more commercial acquisitions, there's still work to be done in contract negotiations and other aspects, right?
Absolutely. People trying to get out of leases or change the terms. And I think being in Havering, it helps us because you know, it's not the same as the city, and people do quite like, and we've got other things going on as well, so it's not completely dire, but it's a changing market. So I'm curious as to where it's going to go, and you know, even Brexit, how that's going to affect some of our clients that import and export and their businesses. And
it's interesting, isn't it? I think I said this on a previous call. We've been so focused on what's been going on with COVID and the pandemic over the last year. I ran a webinar for some of my clients and in partnership with another business, talking about what happens next in their lives to help them build their financial plan. And there was one of my clients who runs an import-export business who said, actually, COVID's been the least of his worries. It's been all about Brexit. And you forget that perspective on it, don't you? It's like Brexit was last year's thing. But actually, for a lot of businesses, it's still having an impact.
That's it. I think if you're a UK-based business and you just deal within this country, you're fine. But for those others, it's going to have a massive impact that we've yet to see. So,
cool.
Curious.
Thanks, Joanne. We'll come to a little bit of business in a little while. And our guest speaker today, we'll say hello to, is Fiona. How are you, Fiona?
I'm okay, just recovering after my fast heart rate this morning. I was on BBC Essex this morning talking about women and their retirement pots.
So what insights did you share?
I don't know, I can't remember, Chris.
It's funny though, because I've done a bit of media over the years, and I just treat it like a bit of fun now. So I had a conversation with somebody earlier in the week for an interview, and we did genuinely have a 3-minute conversation about our favourite cheeses, which was far more fun than talking about financial affairs. But it's an interesting one. Talk to me about the gap. Talk to me about what you think about the gap between men and women's financial arrangements.
Well, for me, I mean, there's such a lot going on with the gap in women's retirement pots, mainly because of, and not least because of, the gap, the pay gap. You know, the fact that, you know, we all have to, some of us, give birth. We then go on maternity leave, you know, or then we work flexibly or part-time. And then there's kind of like those times in your child's life where you really want to give them priority. So you're never really giving yourself priority. And that kind of happens, I think, naturally with women, because as such we're, you know, we're not quite nurturing, you know, well, some of us are. I don't know about others, but you know, my son's actually leaving to emigrate on Sunday.
Where's he off to?
He's off to Israel. Yeah, he's off to Israel to make a life for himself there and actually go in the army. God help him.
Right, interesting.
But yeah, so I haven't been feeling very nurturing in the last 2 years because it's been an absolute pain. He's just wanted to move, but he couldn't move. Yeah. So now he's in a position to move. We're kind of like all wondering what it's going to be like without him here. So
be an interesting transition, won't it?
Yeah, that's what I'm curious about. But in terms of the gap, I think we've got a lot to do in plugging that gap. Lots of pay scale issues, lots of you know, making provision, as we were speaking about before, Chris, taking responsibility, prioritising our income over other things.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
exactly. Yeah, just getting clarity on your financial plan, and there's a financial planner called Tina, who runs a firm called Serenity. Do you know Tina, Fiona?
I've heard of Serenity.
Yeah. So her tagline that I really like is "A man is not a financial plan." So she likes that one, which I'm quite keen on as well.
Good. I like that.
Okay, cool, good stuff. So let's talk a bit of business. We'll start with Ian. Talk to me about what's going on in your world business-wise, Ian.
A lot of the kind of news stories about data protection have really died down. Been anything particularly big come out since the middle of January. So I've got a funny feeling that they're working on something. So I would be completely unsurprised to have a relatively large revelation either from an individual case or another piece of particular guidance come out. So I'll be watching for that. Other than that, I think I'll jump on the kind of comment that Steve made. One of my clients has asked to stop for a month because he's had quite a disturbing thing happen within his supply chain, and he's got to sort out how he's going to respond to that. And it's also March is his financial year end, so he's got a fair few things to sort out there as well. And I think it's this whole trepidation about how are we going to come out of this, and this cautious optimism that everyone's got. There's going to be bumps along the way, and the same as if I think back to where I was August, thinking, have I got a business anymore? To now thinking, right, what have I got to manage to keep my business? It's a different attitude, but there is still, using Steve's word, trepidation out there about how it's going to manifest itself.
Do you think? I mean, in my space, actually, that sort of fearfulness has generated people, new clients who want to get clear on where they are financially. But what I'm hearing is that commercial spend, people spending from businesses, is actually reducing a bit because people are sort of not wanting to make the commitment from their business without knowing, having a bit more clarity. And again, it'd be interesting to see what everybody's perspective is on this. But what's yours? Are you seeing a bit of that?
It's really focusing now on return on investment. So this is why we've got some manufacturers now busier than they've ever been. Social media consultants, website consultants are often busier than they've been in ages, because that's the only real avenue that people have got for their marketing. So again, the marketing budget that they've got, they can't spend on face-to-face stuff anymore. And if they follow their budget, then they've got more for other avenues.
Yeah, it's just where the money's going, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's staying visible. Everyone knows you've got to stay visible. So, that some of the other more supplementary services can be affected by it.
Yeah, all right, brilliant stuff. Thanks, Ian, really appreciate that. Terry, what's going on in your world, world-wise?
Been busy helping Gemma with obviously planning for a new business.
Yeah, she was on last week. That's really exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, she's very excited. I'm very excited for her. Like I say, very positive on it. But I think we've put that to bed now. Like the plan's gone through to head office, so now it's just a question of her doing the training. So interesting what you're saying about commercial spend versus individual spend. We've seen like 100% increase in retail cover, where people, and they're like Virgin retail cover, so people suddenly be.
So you're talking about individuals spending their own budgets.
Yeah, individual family cover, whereas we've seen the commercial side stagnant. It's there, steady, but where I was expecting a big rush for like people to put in place employee benefits, they've not got to that confidence level yet. So we're seeing the usual, the switches and stuff coming over, but I think there still will be once we've got some foundations under our feet, and like, okay, it's not coming back, or the R rates, not the R rate, but the hospital admission rates aren't going to go up. People are going to be confident, and I think they will look at healthcare as being a priority. But individuals are now; they're just coming at us now saying, people that have never had it before, going, you know what, I need this.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So about a week ago, I was asked a couple of months ago to do a workplace seminar for some senior execs at a financial institution in town. And the reason they wanted the webinar is because they'd had a really good year and their bonuses were really high. And I'm not going to mention the name of the firm, but they specialise in individuals over 50s life assurance. And apparently that's been massively popular this year as people have been at home and thinking about protecting their own individuals. But yeah, that commercial appetite compared to the personal appetite is an interesting comparison, isn't it? Thanks, Terry, really appreciate that. Christine, what's happening in your world business wise?
Sorry, I did the big schoolgirl error there. So echoing what Ian said, we have noticed a bit of an uptake in recent weeks for people wanting to look at their websites. I think it's a mixture of maybe that they have diversified their businesses over lockdown, and now because there is hope that we're going to open up again, that they want to make sure their websites are where they need them to be. So we've had a nice uptake. We've done a couple of website health checks recently, and so it's nice to kind of see people kind of seeing the work that we do and how we can improve, and then we've followed up with that. And so yeah, it's just kind of quite a nice feel-good feeling that we've been having recently, just helping people. So yeah, really positive. Great stuff. And special offers still on in terms of your website health check? It did expire, but anybody that's a premium member does get that. So yes, it's £50 for a website health check, and we'll just go through, analyse SEO, keywords, headings, etc., all the stuff that you probably think, yeah, I know about it, but I don't know about it. And we kind of do a deep dive and just give you some logical, easy steps that you can then make improvements, either yourself or whether you need our help, then we can do that too. And the other thing I just want to talk about is the new Havering Means Business logo, which is generating debate on the forum at the minute. And Cassie is not happy because apparently the green one's the best one, and that's not getting enough votes at the minute. So, so I still prefer the blue and purple, to be honest. But we'll see. Tracy and I quite like the orange, so there you go. We're a three-way split, so we've kept it level again. But you know what's interesting? It proves I know nothing about design, and Tracy put me in my place the other day, didn't she? Because she said that exclamation mark actually works. It's like, okay, yeah, I know nothing. Thanks, Christine. Appreciate that. Yes. Glenn, talk to me about what's going on in your world work-wise.
Yeah, very interesting conversations I've been having this week with a number of the local authorities who fund us, because I've been questioning whether or not they're really serious about wanting to open up some of their contract opportunities and supply chains to smaller SMEs. And I think I've challenged a few of them. I said, look, I sort of get it at the moment if you're taking a cautious approach and you want to stick with your existing suppliers and see out the next few months. But yeah, there's a lot of noise and a lot of mouth music going on about social value, CSR, community wealth building. We're going to do this and we're going to do that. And I've basically, and you and I debate this one quite a lot, Chris, about how we throw ourselves into things and offer ourselves up, go out on a limb with something we're passionate on. And I said, look, I'm happy to come and embed myself in the councils, and boy, would I hate working in a local authority, to work in that advocacy space about opening some of this stuff up. So yeah, that's taken up quite a bit of my time this week. It also looks like we've pulled in a £2 million contract win. That's that we don't get any margin out of that, as you know, Chris, because we work on the case studies and everything. So that will be an absolutely massive win for us with one of our SMEs. It's really in and around construction. I've actually, talking around that space, and as you know, that's quite a big part of our client base and our focus. I've had good conversations over the last week with both Steve and Christine, and looking at those areas where some construction firms who are doing quite well at the moment, because we're in that boom cycle, I think, especially with all the resi work that's going on. And, are they taking their eye off the ball on a number of things? Now, I do all the stuff around compliance and, their accreditations and all that stuff. But one of the things I've noticed, through that construction club that I run on a Thursday, is that a load of their websites are really poor. And they're taking their eye off that sort of stuff that could be bringing them in some more revenue, while they're doing this work. So I'm having some conversations with Christine around that. And
but then that's whatever sector it is, Glenn, that's the eternal argument, isn't it? Market when you're going well, so that when you're not, you're in a position where you've done the background work to get you ready.
Yeah, and I think, there was, I gave Christine a silly example of, got a really good painting and decorating client, funnily enough, moving the business back towards the borough and everything. And I said, well, where's your client testimonials page? Gets all this great feedback. I did some stuff for him on socials. Oh, I need to speak to the bloke about this. We're not really sure if, we're getting what we're paying for from the bloke who does the website, QED. By the same token, around the the insurance side of things, we're talking to a few people about, well, this is more on the accountancy side, the R&D tax credits, and some of the construction firms taking advantage of that. But also, on the insurance front, and where can we find a space for, for Steve's firm to come in and have that intelligent conversation with a group of people who actually get it and are running quite good businesses, but are openly saying to me, well, yeah, we probably need to up our game on that side of the insurance. So it's about that professionalizing stuff. So I've been having a moan at the councils, and I've been tickling the tummies of our construction SMEs and trying to get them into a better space. And also around their, the whole pitching and presenting thing, Chris, as well, because while they're on this Zoom call, we give them the opportunity to, to pitch amongst their fellow peers, which they're doing. But then we're also,
because I'd imagine there's a lot of collaborations that can happen in that room, right?
Oh, it's starting to happen, and we, as you know, we threw it together in the early days because they weren't meeting on the golf course or having a pint or whatever they were doing. And all of a sudden, it's a nice captive audience. So they're starting to collaborate SME to SME. But then we bring in the main contractors and the developers to speak to them, and they get the chance to see these guys. And I had a bit of a whinge at a few of them to say that you're really not representing yourself in the right sort of light when some of these guys are coming on
in the room.
And I went, this is probably the best meet the buyer you're ever going to get. I said, because when you do the physical ones, there's all the dance card, business card handover, and not a lot happens. Here,
it's a bit more structured, isn't it?
Got a bit of a white to the eyes conversation. So on one hand, doing a lot of professionalization stuff, if that is such a word, and on the other hand, trying to get some of our beloved local authorities to do what they say on the tin.
Well, look, you're welcome to the second one, mate. I mean, I'm all right at the professionalisation stuff, but managing council relationships, I think, is definitely more your bag than mine.
Yeah, and on the very sort of two last notes. One, I'm having my jab on Wednesday, so I'm quite pleased. That's a tick. And I got referred this morning to Poplar Harker, who's a big housing association around Poplar and Bow, obviously. And she wanted to have a conversation with me around, what could we do a little bit more around opening up supply chains and all this sort of stuff. And then I started talking, and she said, can I just ask you a question? And she goes, are you the famous Glenn Addis? So I said, well, where did the famous bit come in? And she said, well, apparently you're famous for standing up at a particular forum and saying that you absolutely detest box tickers and time wasters with a vengeance. So I said, I actually use the word that I hate them. And I said, and I don't use that word lightly. I said, but yes, that is me.
Yeah, I look, if you're going to be famous for one thing, mate, be famous for that. I love it. All right, cheers, mate. Appreciate that.
No problem.
Carol, how are you? Talk to me about what's going on in your business world. But don't give away the win of the week yet. Not yet. I know you're desperate to, but let's just hold it back for the minute.
I've made some notes so that I don't say something that I shouldn't say.
Good stuff.
Yeah, we've had a good week. Nice and busy. I'll refer to my notes. We've got some new customers on board. We've got a cleaning company on board now, which we're always looking at for cleaning companies. So if anyone knows any contacts, we don't get that many of those jobs, but when we do, they do really well out of the leaflets. We've got an estate agent that comes and goes, but he's on with us at the moment because I think, it's all happening, isn't it? They're saying that there's much more demand than supply at the moment in the housing market. So all the estate agents really want to get houses on their books.
I mean, there was the stamp duty extension as well, wasn't there? So there's an element of the sort of market trying to make sure, while going's good, carry on, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. So they all, of course, want to grab their bit of the market, and the political parties, we're getting asked to do a lot of quotes at the moment. So obviously they all want really big and really quick. So that's always interesting, but we'll see what happens there. And and just getting closer to the new normal, aren't we? So we're really ready. All of our post people that I mentioned last week, all the new post people have all stayed on, all finished their first round. No one's been like blown away or anything by the wind. So yeah.
Love it. All sounds like good progress. Julie Wedge, have your flowers arrived firstly? I have.
Yes, I'm happy.
So ready for Mother's Day?
Yeah, I can go now. I might be working all night, but I can start now.
So tell me how your week's been.
Yeah, week's been really busy. I'm still doing all the sad bits, but continuing to do them really well. So that's good. A lot of my wedding work is I'm having a few more inquiries about people still like postponing it till 2022. So, but that's, I suppose that's just something we've got to keep going. At least they're not cancelling and saying, can we be reimbursed and things like that.
I mean, I suppose that creates an element of pipeline, doesn't it, for next year, knowing what you've got coming on. But what I want to talk to you about is your change in ambition, right? Because you've been putting a couple of comments on the group saying, I might get a bit excited about this growth now, as opposed to like previously saying I was quite relaxed about not doing it. What's changed your mind a bit?
I'm seeing my bank balance get bigger.
Helps.
A lot. I'm becoming what I've wanted to do. I'm becoming a bit more financially independent.
Yeah. Having that security does make a difference, as Fiona said. Yeah, it's really
and realising that because I'm the delivery girl and I'm doing everything, I'm trying to outsource that. So maybe looking at getting trying to find someone that will do my deliveries, whether it's someone that's retired and they'll take each delivery as it goes, and I say, right, there's X amount per delivery, and I don't take that, I just hand that straight to them. Or whether there's the drivers that are going around, the delivery drivers, maybe approaching a couple of them saying, if you want to earn some extra, I don't know.
I mean, you know what? I think what might be useful as the first instance is for you and Carol to have a conversation about that. Because I think Carol could deliver a real insight in terms of her experience with recruiting and supporting her business. Carol, would you be good helping Julie with that?
Mm-hmm.
Amazing, great stuff. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Appreciate that. Thanks, Julie. Really good. Let's move on to Steve. What's going on in your world, mate? I know you've been busy this week.
Busy week. It's been a busy week, but it's been a good week. I think it's just like anything. It's just I think clients and individuals are just looking for more value for money, just making sure obviously what they're actually paying, obviously they're actually getting what they believe they're getting or believe what they're paying for. So it has meant we're a little bit busier than normal. We work a little bit harder, a little bit smarter, but it's the nature of the beast. So I think I could probably have done without some of these storms this week that seem to be adding to my workload.
Yeah.
Getting numerous clients calling up saying I've got various storm damage incidents. So my phone was ringing off the hook on Wednesday. But yeah, it's been a great week. We're continuing to really achieve far more than we thought was possible.
You know what's interesting though, Steve. You know, like sort of. I mean, if I look at my week, a lot of my week's been spent just making sure my existing clients are okay. And I think sometimes we forget that success isn't only about growth; it's also about just doing a good job for your clients, right?
Well, it's doing a good job. It's getting those moments of the feedback from clients. I mean, there's a client last week who right up until the 11th hour, some of these renewals do. But it was like every year, you guys never stop surprising me that you always deliver, and then putting a call into my boss to say Steve's done it, which is always really appreciated.
Yeah.
But I think it's nice to know that whatever we're doing it the right way, and it's great to have conversations with the likes of Glenn and see how we can potentially help a wider audience on Glenn's business. So. It's just nice to feel appreciated. You have to put the hard work in, but it's nice to get the positive feedback.
Yeah. Glad you guys are collaborating as well. Love seeing that as per usual. Julie Bell, talk to me about what's going on in your world work-wise.
We've had a really busy week, to be honest with you. We've had quite a few new inquiries come to us, which is really, really good. We've come up with a few different ideas between the team of extra things we can offer. So we're sort of keeping it under our hat at the moment. We're just sort of brainstorming it. But yeah, I think we've got a lot to look forward to. And like I said, I've had some really good one-to-ones with some of the guys here today. And going forward, I'd like to think there could be some collaboration with some of these guys, you know, just helping out. It's not a case of we want to get in front of people on the pretense that someone's definitely going to be a client. It's just about us giving value to help.
Yeah.
To help
business. And if you evidence value long enough, that client feeling sort of looks after itself. You've got to ask for the business, but it sort of looks after itself.
Exactly, and we're very hot on the wow factor, aren't we? Here, you know, making sure our clients feel really important and genuinely really important, not just a case of, oh, we're going to send them a birthday card, we're going to do this. It really is a touch base operation. You know, we are genuinely interested, and yeah, so that's what we've all been talking about. So the ideas I'm really looking forward to if they get off the ground.
So the one thing we've been focusing on at Savella over the last couple of weeks is self-development on our team. And you just a massive thanks to Georgia this week, because I'm a member of one of your book clubs, and I said, I'm going to bring the team along next time. Can you? I'll buy us some more books so they can read it before the next book club. And Georgia said, don't worry, we'll send it to you. Job done. Yeah. So that sort of service stands out. So can you thank Georgia for that for me?
Yeah, of course I will. But the thing is, these clubs, as well as you all sort of, you know, you're there for a reason. It is a little bit of networking as well, but it's also building other relationships. And I think the book club now has got quite a nice feel about it. When people come on, you've got some characters on there, and it's quite
there's that reprobate called Chris Dames who always keeps turning up. I don't know, you definitely need to sling him out. Kevin, I'm moving on quickly, Julie. I mean, that takes us down the rabbit hole that I'm not going down today.
Kevin, you could be the basis of my next video.
Don't spoil this, Chris. Keep going.
That scares me.
Chris, watch
the video. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. I have had some videos made about me, Kevin, but luckily, none of them are on the internet. Let's move on very quickly.
How do I follow that?
And talk to us about what's going on in your business.
Yeah, we're steady. It's been a funny 3-4 weeks. Just gilt rates have started going up quite a lot, which affects our interest rates. And they've not just gone up by a couple of basis points, they've gone up by 0.5%, etc. But that's also giving us opportunities to start looking at remortgaging more. That will bring down the early repayment charge. So reason I was slightly delayed today, I had clients from 3-4 years ago just been looking to move in, want to now consider remortgaging, and there's some considerable savings there. So the remortgage good. The owner is kind enough to give me a nice introduction. So thank you for that this week. That's been very useful. Again, trying to benefit this new network we're doing. And on the other side of it, it's just been efficient, laying some plans for the future. Let's see what we can do, looking at some new landing page, etc., and looking at remortgaging. Because I think our sort of business has always been new client. It's starting to forget about clients who need to be reviewed because they're failing health, older, different needs. So that's where we're starting to look down that route.
And that remortgage of lifetime mortgages is something that I've never really focused on. You mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, actually. So thanks for sharing that. Thanks, Kevin. Rachel, what's going on in your world? I know this is you've been a premium member for a little while now, because Russ told me about that. But can I just say, welcome to the Friday meetup. It's really good to see you.
It's been so busy, hasn't it, with homeschooling and all of that.
How old are your kids, Rachel?
12 and 10, and my 10-year-old was actually in hospital at the beginning of the week having an operation. So it's so the first day he was due to go back to school, he ended up, on the slab in theatre, which was most annoying.
They do. Interesting description. How are they doing now?
He's fine. He's going back to school on Monday. So yeah, that's all good. So it's been really busy.
And you're sorry, hold on. We'll talk about work in a minute. You're 12-year-old, back, fine, enjoying it?
Oh gosh, yeah. He's although yesterday he told me it was really windy, and he might get wet. So I just said to him, more reason to make sure you're wearing your cycle helmet, Harry. Off you go.
See you later. Yeah. You're encouraging independence, Rachel. I like that.
All the way.
Talk to me about business then. What's life like in your world?
Business is really good. It's busy. I've been working with one of my clients on a really big tender, and they're an office fit out business, and everybody's got budgets to spend, and we've been working really hard on the tender, and we won the business. So I've got a lot of work now to do in negotiating prices for everything.
Do you want to, for people who don't know, do you want to share what your business does?
Yeah, I started as a virtual assistant, but I'm not really a virtual assistant, albeit I have got VAs working with me. I'm a virtual business manager, helping clients achieve their success, and that can be in many different ways. So the particular client that we've just won the tender for is, I will do everything from negotiating on products, making sure the subbies are there and compliant and got all their checks done, to raising the health and safety file, and seeing the project right the way through from start to finish.
Yeah, so it's management and ops, and then the support you need, you've got access to as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool, good stuff. Sounds amazing. Thanks, Rachel, and great to see you. Joanne, how are you? Tell us a little bit about what life is like in your world.
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. It's been quite a busy week for me. We've got our firm's AGM coming up next week, so we've all had to sort of put forward reports and try and ascertain what the year ahead is going to bring, which is easier said than done.
What are you basing your projections on?
I'm just plucking figures and things out of thin air and just hoping for the best. And yeah, it's been a funny year this past year, so and I think it's going to be a funny year moving forward. Our residential conveyancing team are absolutely manic, which is great. And, you know, in one sense, I'm pleased that they've extended the SDLT deadline, because it, you know, gives them a bit more breathing space to get search results back and what have you. But in another sense, we were just sort of thinking, well, if we can just get to March, we can then have a rest and it'll all settle down, and that's not happening. So they're going to be burnt out by the end of it.
And do you reckon the demand is driven by a stamp duty at the minute?
Yes, I think a lot of it is, and I don't think everyone's making the savings that they potentially think they are, because I think house values have gone up because but I think, you know, lockdowns had an effect as well, that people have thought, actually, we need to get out of the built up areas and into the countryside a bit more, or into bigger houses with better sort of home working facilities.
Well, I think the other thing is as well, when you're spending 24/7 in your house, your perspective on it might change a bit, right?
Yep. Yeah, definitely. And yeah, that's been busy. And commercial, you know, we are still doing okay. You know, people are still looking at taking leases on commercial units, and cafes are still opening. So, you know, touch wood.
And I mean, as you say, I mean, commercial space will change. It's just, you know, will it go from less shopping and more experiential? You know, you know, there'll be an evolution in the high street as well, right?
I mean, I was talking to one of my colleagues this week and saying about the high street changing, and she said, yes, it is. But this week she's had 3 inquiries, 1 for a cafe and 2 for salons. So I think it's just going to be you know, it's just, it'll be more service based rather than clothes and what have you. So.
Right, thanks, Joanne. Really good to see you as well. Thanks for joining us today, and yeah, it's been good fun. Oh, Fiona, tell us a little bit about what's going on in your world, and whenever you're ready, you can start your presentation.
So this week's been fairly busy. I've had a mix of inquiries coming in, and it's been really good for me introducer-wise this week. Somebody actually trained in his training contract as a solicitor all those years ago, who I thought didn't like me very much, actually came through for me on LinkedIn and passed me a really nice referral, actually, who I passed to Kevin. Because Kevin does what I think this client needs, and that's equity release to kind of bring down his estate value. So, so that was good, and it was an opportunity to give Kevin that referral and help Havering Means Business. So I'm going to share the screen, and hopefully it'll work. I won't be able to see any of you. So, Chris, can you tell me whether it's working?
Yeah, we'll do.
Is that showing?
Yeah, Ras, is that good for you?
Yeah, that's good, yeah.
Yeah, great stuff.
Lovely, thanks, Ras. So I wanted to put something together, really, just to show new clients and existing clients a little bit about ethical investments, what they do, if they work, and the different terms within the ethical investment sphere, just to kind of debunk jargon. So when you invest money, your money is temporarily used by someone else, such as a company or a government, primarily to fund their activities. But what if some of these activities clash with your personal values or those of your own business? For instance, if you had a relative who gambled the family jewels and inheritance away, you probably wouldn't want anything to do with gambling in the investment choices you make. Or a particular organisation may find itself embarrassed by the investment choices that have been made. For example, a terminal disease charity having funds in carcinogenic practices such as tobacco. That's not in good taste and would, I'm sure, lose that charity a lot of money if people became aware of it. So generally speaking, when you invest, it's very difficult to tell where the funds are coming from and what they are funding, but you have a bit better chance, a bit more of a chance of being able to tell if you invest in ethical funds. So, I've gone back to, but that's okay. What's an ethical investment? The term ethical investing, in my opinion, covers a very wide range of types of investment. And overall, it just means that as well as growing your money to beat inflation and receive good returns, hopefully, you also want your money to be used for good. Who wouldn't? If those returns were as good as those that traditional investments gave. For example, one ethical investor might simply aim to avoid putting their money in industries known to cause harm, such as tobacco, armaments, or gambling. A more rigorous ethical investor may look to invest in companies with particularly high standards with regard to the environment, society, and how they're run. These standards are known as environmental, social, and governance criteria, and are often used by socially conscious investors to screen their investments. Traditional investments are not bad investments just because ethical ones invest in good. It just means that sometimes those traditional investments may not fit in with the investment's ethics, investors' ethics or ethos, and that ethical investment is preferred because of that. So what is ESG investing? ESG stands for environmental, social, and corporate governance. These are generally thought to be the three main factors when looking at sustainability and impact of a business or another organisation. Environmental factors look at the organisation's carbon footprint, its contribution to other forms of pollution, its sustainability or renewability, and other impacts it may have on the environment. Ethical investors typically look for activities in these businesses that offset these effects. Social factors include the diversity of the business workforce, how inclusive it behaves, how it actually fulfills its responsibilities towards its consumers, and its working policies relating to them. Corporate governance is directly shown through how a company is run, its overall structure, and the way in which all employees are treated, especially comparing the management to the actual worker bees within the company. So is the treatment of everyone standardized and fair? Are there different strengths of ethical? How strict do you want to be? If you're content to just avoid certain types of industries or business practices, then socially responsible investing, or SRI, may be enough for you. SRI funds set broad criteria when constructing a portfolio to screen out less ethical companies. However, SRI funds tend to focus on best-in-class companies, rather avoiding whole industries, so may include, for instance, oil companies that show more responsibility than their competitors. Such funds are sometimes described as light green. If you want to go a little stricter, then you may want to look at fully ethical funds. These will handpick companies to invest in based on the strong ESG criteria and will exclude any that don't meet its standards. Such funds may be described as dark or medium green. Another kind of fund is a passively ethical investment fund. A passively ethical investment fund invests in a range of ordinary companies, regardless of their ethical slant, and then uses its position as a significant shareholder to try and improve any ethical concerns by voting on resolutions. This may or may not have an effect on greening up the companies involved. So does it really work? So there's an awful lot of evidence to suggest that so far it really is working, because there are two benefits here: returns and good. There may be times when so-called ethical investors may have to trade their beliefs against making a return and make a call on it. However, there does seem to be evidence to show that this may not have to be the case. Before ethical investments were even a thing in 2008, the financial crisis revealed that Islamic banks that held Sharia-compliant funds avoided most of the losses in the banking industry at that time. A successful ESG fund will generally target companies that are profitable first and only then consider their ESG credentials rather than just investing in anything with a good corporate responsibility. So this will give you another edge. Why is ESG investing so important? Well, there's no point having a huge investment pot if at that point the planet's no longer a pleasant place to live. ESG investing really looks at the whole picture, getting you to the point where you have both money and a healthy world in which to spend it. That's a little bit cheesy, but it's true. There's also something to think about here. This quote from Richard Curtis, the comedy writer, stuck in my mind for never underestimating the effect that goodness your money can do in terms of planet saving. Moving your savings to sustainable funds can be 27 times as effective at reducing your carbon footprint than eating less meat, using public transport, reducing water use, and flying less combined. Richard Curtis has become somewhat of an expert in this field since launching a campaign that aims to help move some of the 3 trillion in UK pensions out of industries that are harming people and the planet and into sustainable businesses. So how can my IFA help? So choose independent, not restricted financial advisors. They are unbiased, unrestricted when looking at financial products and can source from the whole of the marketplace. This means choice, it also means economy, it also means bespoke. And secondly, an IFA will be experienced in identifying funds, if that's what they do, and comparing them objectively. Quite simply, they know what to look for and what qualities and or risks to be aware of. They won't inevitably make the right call every time, but the odds of them picking good funds, again, if that's what they do, are very much better than the odds of anyone doing it by chance or after a few hours of online research. Thirdly, it's much simpler and easier to use an IFA. You simply talk to them about your investment needs and your ethical preferences, and the IFA will go away and find suitable funds or model portfolios for you to choose from. The difference in returns between good and poor funds can be dramatic, which in many cases will more than justify the IFA's fee. And so there are other benefits over and above all the good stuff we've spoken about regarding this type of investment. Many of these green industries linked to growth, ethical investments get government subsidies, and with this comes natural growth, giving better returns long-term, especially within the sustainability arena. Sustainability equals long-term, and long-term is at the core of good investing. Competent governance of good companies also means stability, and this means less of the ups and downs that we experience every day in the investment world, which we call volatility. This type of investing is becoming more and more popular, especially amongst the younger clients I have, and in my opinion, will become a core way to invest in the very near future. And that's your lot.
Great stuff. That was really, really good, Fiona. So couple of questions from me. If you can stop sharing your screen, that would be amazing. So a couple of questions. That was really good. Thank you. A couple of questions from me to kick us off with. As you know, so firstly, a thank you, because I know that we've spoken about my Cervelo for Good proposition that hopefully we're going to be launching within the next 3 weeks. So your support on that's been really good. But interestingly, that was driven by demand from a couple of our clients saying, actually, we are focusing more on our money doing good. And Chris, you talk about do well, do good as part of the Cervelo values. How are you living up to those principles? And that's never happened before. So I suppose question one is you've talked about that increase in popularity. Do you think that's a trend due to continue? And then number two is, and I know I'm being a bit cheeky here because we both know independent advice is best, but why do you think independence when you get advice is so important?
Well, the first question is, yeah, it's a trend that's going to go upwards inevitably. I think the more and more young people who start looking, number one, at their retirement pots and their, you know, investment ISAs, they're going to want to look at, you know, making their money grow in a good way. They are leading the way, really, in the way that they do little things, really. I think much more than we ever did. Kind of not lumping you in with my generation, Chris, because I know you're younger than me. But
I'm just, you know, if we're talking about, I'm just in that one down, Fiona. It's not far.
Well, you know, I think for me, you know, younger people were brought up in it. You know, they were brought up in the greenness. You know, at school they were taught about sustainability and the importance of, you know, helping the planet. We never had things like that. It was like, chuck your tinny in the bin, mate. That's what it was all about. And
you know what?
I
think the other interesting change is that us moving to an age where values are fundamentally more important as part of the conversation in every aspect of our life.
Yeah, definitely. And in terms of the whole of market question, it's a no-brainer when looking for ethical funds. It's a no-brainer to use an independent financial advisor because they've got that ability to look far and wide for you to get the best possible ethical, whether it be model portfolio, which is a kind of bagged up set of funds that are already kind of done for you, or picking funds. I'm not a picker. It's not my skill set, and I personally feel like financial advisors who pick funds, it's not the way to go for me. I think you're setting yourself up for a bit of trouble. So I use model portfolios. I use a range of different ethical model portfolios, ranging from light green to the darkest green, kind of Extinction Rebellion type dark green. So yes, is the word whole of market is much better.
Amazing. Any questions for Fiona? Terry?
Are there any investment companies that have been set up purely as an ethical investment company, or is it just ethical funds within existing investment companies?
I'm sure there are specific, oh, I can't get my words out, I'm so tired. Specific companies that have been set up in terms of just providing ethical funds. But a lot of the bigger companies in the financial services industry are set up for ethical funds now. I personally use a platform that provides model portfolios for a different range of ethical funds, and those model portfolios contain lots of different companies worth of ethical funds. So your question, I don't know whether I've answered it, Terry, but I'm sure there are. Don't know the answer.
Yeah, they're because I've been knee deep in the research over the last 3 weeks. There is, but as Fiona said, they're not necessarily, just because they've been set up just to offer those funds, they might not necessarily be the best solution. Sorry, Fiona, I just jumped in on that.
No,
just
right.
because you've helped me so much, I'm knee deep in this sort of stuff at the minute.
No, it's good.
Anybody else got any questions? Ian.
Fiona, I'm probably one of the people who is really keen on looking at green investments, green technology and transport, anything like that. But is there a trade-off between, you know, as we're looking at financial security, is there a trade-off between choosing green to retain better portfolio growth, or even more income later down the line if you chose more traditional methods?
I actually don't think there is, no. I think ethical funds are performing better, if not better than traditional funds at the moment. And whether that's to do with the pandemic, I really don't know. But I think, you know, we've all kind of become aware of our environment. We're using less resources overall. And I think because of that, I think ethical funds have done really well over the last year. A lot of growth in there. And people are actively choosing them as opposed to traditional funds. And they're not more expensive. They used to be a little bit more expensive because they're actively managed, most of them. But the price annually is comparative now, I'm finding, with some of the other traditional funds. What do you think, Chris, on that?
Who knows, because nobody's got a crystal ball. But there's an argument to suggest that if you've got companies who are doing good to the environment, good socially, but most importantly, govern well, like managed firms that are managed well, which the governance element focuses on, longer term, you'd expect those companies to outperform. The challenge that we always had at Savello, and the reason we haven't done it before, is there was too much of a cost difference between buying green funds and not, and that gap's closed massively. So effectively it's a different landscape now, and one where, you know, it's an interesting one here, because our job is to make sure that our clients achieve their financial goals, right? Step one. And step two, what's the best route to do that? And I think the debate about whether to do that for good or to do that in a core portfolio is now a lot slimmer. Still a difference, but now a lot slimmer. So, well, I like this double act, Fiona. This is good fun. Any other questions that I'm just going to get Fiona to answer, because it's not my presentation? Any other questions?
No more questions.
Great stuff. Thank you, Fiona. That was really, really
My
good.
pleasure.
I really appreciate you doing that. We're gonna move on to wins of the week, and we will start with Terry. Terry, what's your biggest win of the week?
Well, from a business point of view, it's got to be like Gemma's business plan being accepted by our head office, and we're just waiting for the feedback on that. But one of the things, one of the highlights of the group is WPA have a benevolent foundation, which has been set up to promote healthy activity amongst the young. So just with all the kids going back to school and everything else, they're looking to make charitable donations. It has to be like the state school, and it has to be to purchase healthy activity equipment. We're not talking about a lot of money, between £500 to £2,000, but yeah, if like typically, yeah, they've been putting playgrounds into primary schools and things like that, like adventure playgrounds and things like that. So if anybody, you know, as their kids going back to school, if schools need any funding of that type, then yeah, reach out to us and we'll put you in touch with WPA.
Amazing. Thanks for that tip. That's really, really useful. Carol, now's the time, right? Now is the time for wins of the week.
No, because you build it up and then everyone's expecting something really good. Stop it.
Okay. Just tell us your wins of the week.
Just that we had such a good meeting yesterday with Simon Lewin, and just to say if anyone isn't in touch but is able to get onto the Building Legacies programme, it's so fab. I just both came off the call just so excited about a few things that we had to put to him and a few more things that he suggested. And yeah, just really, really good. And we've had some chocolates delivered as well as a thank you. So we taunted him with them. So, you know, there's lots of other pluses. Great stuff.
So love to hear stories of collaboration, and Glenn and I and Simon and Rob and Clive, really good guys over at ELBB. We really like working with them as well. So thanks, Carol. That's really good. Steve, talk to me about your win. Apart from the slippers, which are clearly a win, talk to me about your wins of the week.
I've actually got three. I'm getting a bit greedy. Firstly, we just reviewed the month of February and found it was ERB's best financial month on record.
Great stuff.
Which is quite nice for February being the shortest month of the year anyway, so that was great. Secondly, I think I mentioned the last meeting that Holm Church Football Club, which we sponsor, were through the quarterfinals. They won. So they're now through the semi-finals of the FA Trophy, and will be away to Notts County in a couple of weeks' time. So just one more game away from featuring at Wembley, which is great for Holm Church and great for them. And thirdly, yeah, we've continued as we've started 2021, and yeah, retained every single client so far that I've dealt with. So long may it continue.
Great stuff. That's 3 well-deserved wins, Steve. So I'm really, really pleased to hear that. Julie Wedge, apart from your flowers arriving today, what's your biggest win this week?
That I have managed to look at another supplier, I think, and use them. Made a few hiccups, but that's life. But yeah, and I know that they were late delivering, but it's Mother's Day, so yeah, but I'm really pleased about that, and they saved me £100.
Cool. Savings are always good.
Yeah,
amazing stuff, and lovely to see you back after a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's been mad.
Yeah, no, look, all good, all good. Yeah. Always a pleasure to see you. Julie Bell, tell us about your wins of the week.
Well, the wins of the week was we had 2 new people attend our Action Club on Thursday afternoon, which is always good, and they've really enjoyed it and they want to continue. So yeah, so that's our win of the week, and obviously the children going back to school.
Big win.
Big win. I love it dearly, but homeschooling and I are too far apart now.
Yeah, let the professionals do it, right? Thanks, Julie. Ian, talk to me about your wins.
Yeah, like Steve, I've got 3. One is I've agreed a webinar with CME down in Raynham for the 13th of April.
What, sort of face-to-face one?
No, not a face-to-face. It's a webinar. It's
so a webinar, you did say that.
CME platform. And it's about the interrelation between technology and privacy. So,
who's the audience here?
Huh?
Who's the audience?
Anyone who wants to know about how to avoid the pitfalls of using technology.
Okay, cool.
I can announce that the partnerships is now open for membership. So that's another win that happened during this week. Finally got the bank account open, so that's that. The real big one, the one I'm really excited about, I found out this week that I've been accepted as a mentor for the Santander Women's Leaders Business stuff. So I'm really, really chuffed about that.
Great stuff. And what does that involve, Ian?
It involves mentoring a business leader for 9 months, having meetings of between 60 and 90 minutes once a month.
Cool. Okay. Well,
outlay, but you know the benefit that you give to people of being mentor is just fabulous, and you know it's just another way of giving back.
Yeah, love that. Absolutely love that. And in terms of attendance for the CME event, make sure you, if people can attend, make sure you post that in the group for me, please.
Yeah, I will do. Yeah.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate that. Kevin, talk to me about your wins. Apart from booking our walking meeting later in the year. Oh, you're on mute, mate. I'll put that. Kevin, you're on mute, mate.
Long morning. Win of the week is a new consultant to join us. So that's now making it up to 5. So that's within 9 months. We're very pleased at that. And we haven't had to spend a penny on recruitment. People come and speak to us.
So it's through the network, through your network. And how have you been recruiting? How have you been recruiting in terms of the process? Have you been doing it all virtually?
We've done it virtually the last 2. Yeah, it's all done virtually. And on TV. To be honest, you know, with us, Chris, like yourself, to go for FCA check-ins and whatever. So it's a fairly safe one to do it. Yeah. And it's a good site. We're starting to spread over the country. So we've got Wiltshire now covered, Essex, Suffolk, in London. So it's starting to work well. We're looking one person per certain radius, about 4-mile radius. So it's important that you're offering a decent opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. It needs to be a partnership, doesn't it? It sounds like
most
you've got
definitely.
that. Yeah.
That's
Cheers,
nice,
Kevin.
right. Cheers,
appreciate that. Rachel, talk to me about your wins of the week.
I've got two. I successfully set up a little office on the end of a hospital bed, and there was no business disruption, so I was able to look after my son and work, and that's the beauty of having a flexible business and not letting anybody down. And last night's a personal one with the head coach of Romford Junior Raiders Ice Hockey Club. We hosted a seminar for girls hockey with 4 of the country's best GB players. So my sons play ice hockey at Romford, and I'm heavily involved in the hockey scene. So
that's at the Sapphire Centre, isn't it?
Yeah. So we hosted a live webinar for girls aspiring to achieve GB. So that was really good, and we had 50 players on there, as well as some real English talent. So that was really nice to be involved in.
Amazing. And that's just to encourage girls into ice hockey, right?
Yeah, it's a boys' sport, right? It's and girls find it really tough because there's a level where they either dip out completely, and when it becomes contact, they're physically not strong enough to sometimes hold off the boys. But there's some girls that are, and that's brilliant. And then there's some girls that just veer towards women's hockey, and that's fine. But it was just trying to encourage the girls to say, look, there's a way of being able to do this. And yeah, it was great.
Amazing, great stuff. That sounds like a big win to me. And you know what's interesting? I back in 2019, when we could do this sort of thing, I went to the Sapphire Centre to see the ice hockey, and I loved it. You know, it's as a spectator sport, it's quite good fun, isn't it?
It's the best sport in the world.
You are a bit biased. Glenn, talk to me about your wins of the week.
Okay. Yeah, I'm also, I'm down with Steve on this one, about a Hornchurch winning and getting through to the semi-final. And just in case, is my tip of the week. If you did want to back Hornchurch, they're 20-1 with most bookies at the moment as the full favourite in the list to win the cup outright. So there's no betting yet on the actual match, but it's worth £1 if you know anyone who normally walks into a betting shop, definitely. On the giving back front, personal win for me. I'm involved with the Onside Youth Zone, which is that big mega youth club over in Parslows Park, and I managed to get a couple of guys I went to school with in and around Beaconsbury who not typically used to speaking in front of a lot of people, but have done quite well for themselves. Actually agreed to speak at some of their young persons events about how to aspire to, you can come from the streets and still do well.
Love that.
I'm one big win is the fantastic plug that Carol's give us as a result of one of my advisors working with her, although I'm yet to receive the box of chocolate that you're supposed to be sending me as well. We did, of course, we had the hopefully the 2 million win. I've just got to look through the evidence stuff for one of our construction clients, and really big one for me. I looked at our performance for the Building Legacies program, and it would appear that given that we've still got another year to go on the program, we've hit our target on every single outcome already, except for I think I've got to get about 35 to 40 12-hour supports with SME. So by the time all of you lot sign up and go through 12 hours with me, then you'll be helping me get somewhere to digest, because I already told you I detest box stickers with a
Yeah.
Anyway, that's me done.
Yeah. That sitting at that council office, you'll be fine, Glenn. There'll be people stopping it.
I walked past the town hall at Barking the other day, and I looked down at some of their council offices behind bars. We're looking at the windows, and I thought to myself, why didn't I accept that project management job they offered me a couple of years ago? And now
I think you know the answer to that. Cheers, mate. And Joanne, talk to me about what's gone well for you this week.
Well, I don't know how to follow all of those.
I
They're
know, it's all
amazing.
good, isn't it? Yeah.
Absolutely amazing, brilliant, everybody. I think just from my business perspective, you know, I've been preparing for our AGM next week, and I looked at the figures for last year, and actually we're not far off. So having had a really difficult year, and you know, we've had to put people on furlough and worried about, you know, the future of the business, our staff and everything else, actually we're not in a bad place, and you know, starting this year relatively positively. So I guess that's my win.
I think professional services, interestingly, has coped with this year probably better than a lot of sectors, right? And it's, you know, it's encouraging to see that. So amazing stuff. Thanks, Joanne. And Fiona, talk to me about your win.
I think using Frances from Jelly Bean Social has been such a boon to my business. I've only been using her since November, but since then I've had a number of inquiries through, and one in particular through LinkedIn, as I previously mentioned, but also I wouldn't have got that interview with BBC Essex without it, because they looked at my LinkedIn profile. So that's the win. It's a good one.
Amazing, yeah, really, really good. And Francis is our resident social media expert on HMB as well. Thank you to everybody who's joined us today. Really good meeting. I've really enjoyed it. We'll see you on the community over the course of the week. Have a lovely week. Have a lovely weekend first. That comes first. And I will see you on HMB meeting coming up. See you later. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.